Oh wowee, look at these. I'm hoping that after tonight these can go in their final flowering positions, or make a start anyway. Put these in some containers and then the rest can go in the polytunnel in the ground, and then we've got all of this to look forward to. Don't they look fantastic? Wow. It's amazing how much they grow. So if you're just starting yours, you can get all excited. As I say, the anemones, they always start flowering first, and we get one flower at a time, where the ranunculus, well, they tend to come in all guns blazing with loads of flowers in one go. Oh my goodness me. It's just glowing here this evening, but I just wanted to show you, when I did my planting, I put some of the rose-shaped ranunculus in with the butterflies. And look, this is Purple Jean with butterfly ranunculus fever. This looks like a vase arrangement in your garden, doesn't it? I'm so overexcited, I can't even tell you. So you've got the two different shapes of flower just blooming together. And I think the butterfly ranunculus, because they've got such sturdy stems, they're actually giving support to the rose-shaped ranunculus. Just when you thought you couldn't get any better, it does. This is the marshmallow. Look at the size of that flower and how strong the stem is. Beautiful. And then from the other end, look at that. Absolutely beautiful. So as these start to mature, they'll start to gain heights. The first flowers are always quite short. If you've been following for a while, you'll know that. So we have shorter first ones, and then they get taller and taller and taller and taller until they are positively gigantic. But it's only February. So any flowers are extremely welcome, aren't they? Now I've got a bit more room under my cold frames because of all the planting I've done. I've moved the ranunculus and the anemones out here. These are the spring started ranunculus and anemones, and the hope is we can get them planted next week. The temperatures are due to go right up, so I'm going to try and get them in the garden. I'm just helping myself to a handful of beautiful anemones for the house. Now we have a lift in the temperatures coming, so these are my butterflies and they are literally ready to plant themselves. They're going to sprout legs soon. So I'm going to go through all the containers, give them a water and a feed so they're fully hydrated, and then I'll start thinking about planting them over the next few days because we've got a lift coming in the temperatures, so I'm going to take advantage of that. But they will settle in much better if they're not dry. So water and feed them while they're in their pots, because that makes sure that the plant actually gets the water and nutrients and it's not competing with the others. Then once they're nice and moist, then we can plant them. Oh, it's so exciting, isn't it? So I think on Friday it's going to be our last sale before the autumn. So if you want to buy anything from our shop, Friday night will be your last chance saloon, so don't miss it. Then I can just worry about gardening. No more shopkeeping. I am glad I got you the plants though, and then we can grow them together. It's so much more fun when we've got the same, isn't it? But it just looks like spring now, doesn't it? You can feel it, even though it's cold. It feels different, doesn't it? Oh, it's lovely in here. I'll shut the door. Door shut. Got some pots. That's the spent compost from the rose lily bulbs. So I'm going to make sure that I use some of that. I'll use some as a top dressing over these plants as well once I've put them in the ground. But I'm just watering them all like I said I would. Look at those. And I'm just separating them out into their colours now, because they've got, over the winter with all the shuffling around, they've got a bit muddled up. But they are all labelled, so I'll be fine. Then this lovely stuff, well, this is recycled. The rose lilies came in this, so I'm going to be using that as a top dressing over the plants once I put them in the ground, and that will keep the weeds down as well as the moisture in. Got another container here. Isn't it great stuff? And I'll also use it for planting some in containers, and also the rose lily bulbs as well. They need doing. So it's free stuff. It's good stuff as well. So I'll mix this up with some of my homemade compost as well. It's going to be all go, you know. So the soil in this bed, although it's still cold, the soil will have been charged up by the warmth from the sunshine. So that actually is a lot warmer than the air temperature. So tonight I will put a fleece over the plants, but because they're sitting on the soil, the heat will rise up from the soil over the leaves. The fleece will trap that warmth, and I've made myself a little microclimate. So they'll be absolutely fine out here tonight. There we go. Wowee! I really think they needed that feed. So seaweed feed is the best if you've got that, but if not, they're so close to flowering time, tomato food will be perfectly adequate. So seaweed food, number one. If not, tomato food will do just fine. I've got all the pots, the compost pile's gone down, so it's all been decanted into pots ready for using later. And then this is the feed I use. So I use the tomato feed and I use the seaweed feed from the same company. You see me with the small bottles, but you can see how worn out they are. They're so cumbersome, but it's cheaper to buy it like this. But they're so cumbersome, I tend to just decant the bottles into recycled feed containers. So Maxi Crop is what I use, not necessarily the container that you can see, because those are, you can see the labels are falling off. Those are just really old. It's just easier for me, easier to handle. I've just given this lot a feed as well. I think they really needed it too. So I started my corms in vermiculite, so I haven't needed the cells, but I will do within the next 10 days, 2 weeks. So if I can get these planted in that time, that means the cells will be sitting there ready and waiting for the next batch of corms to go in.